A sword is a tool designed to bring you close enough to hurt another human being. But its invention was not simply a story of ancient people becoming crueler. It was about metal, fear, power, protection, and the terrifying problem of fighting at arm's length. One wrong step, one broken weapon, one enemy too close. A sword was not just a sharp object, it was a new answer to danger. By the end of this video, you will understand how a small knife slowly became a long blade, why ancient metalworkers had to solve impossible-looking problems, and why the first swords may have been symbols of power before they became common battlefield weapons. The common assumption is that somebody simply made a knife longer, but a long knife is not automatically a sword. A long knife bends. A long knife breaks. A real sword needs balance, strength, a secure grip, and a blade that can survive impact. Picture an ancient workshop around 3300 BCE near the upper Euphrates in what is now eastern Turkey. Smoke drifts from a fire. A worker pours glowing metal into a mold while people nearby live beneath the shadow of a large mud brick complex. At Arslantepe, archaeologists found a cache of 9 copper alloy swords and daggers, among the earliest sword-like weapons currently known. Survival did not reward good intentions. It rewarded useful solutions. Researchers studying early weapons discovered that the sword did not appear from nowhere. At first they thought the answer was simple: make a dagger longer. Then they realized length creates a new engineering problem. A short stone or copper dagger can be pushed into a target without needing to flex very much. But when you extend that blade, every strike puts more stress on the middle. The weapon becomes harder to control. It can bend, it can crack, and if the handle is weak, the blade can pull free exactly when you need it most. Archaeologists therefore debate where a long dagger ends and a true sword begins. That debate matters because invention was not one dramatic day, it was a chain of experiments. First came the longer blade. Then came the question that changed everything: how do you make it survive? Archaeologists found that the earliest known sword-like weapons at Arslantepe were made from an arsenic copper alloy, not steel. At first, people often imagined Bronze Age metal as soft and primitive. Then they realized ancient smiths were working with materials that could be cast, shaped, and hardened through skilled processing. Copper alone is relatively soft, but adding arsenic, or later tin, could produce harder alloys than pure copper. That gave weapon makers a chance to create blades longer than ordinary knives. The Arslantepe cache dates to roughly the late 4th millennium BCE, and some of its weapons were decorated with silver. That detail is important. These were not only practical tools, they may also have announced rank, wealth, and control. The sword was beginning as technology, but it was also becoming a message. Researchers discovered that a sword is not merely a blade with a point. At first they focused on sharp edges. Then they realized the hidden challenge was the connection between hand and metal. A fighter needs to swing, thrust, stop, recover, and keep the weapon from twisting away. That requires a grip and a blade shaped as one working system. Over time, smiths developed different ways to attach handles, including riveted organic grips and more complex metal hilts. This helped makers produce blades that were longer and better controlled. The shape also changed. Some swords became leaf-shaped, widening around the middle to add material where a blade needed strength. Others were designed more for thrusting. The sword was becoming a carefully balanced machine. And once humans could make reliable blades, another question appeared. What happened when two of them met? Archaeologists found marks on ancient bronze swords that looked like damage from use. At first, they thought many marks might be accidental wear from burial, movement in soil, or handling after excavation. Then they realized experiments could compare those marks with damage created during controlled combat. The Bronze Age Combat Project examined 110 Middle and Late Bronze Age swords from Britain and Italy alongside experimental replicas. Its researchers found evidence consistent with skilled sword use, including controlled blade-on-blade contact. That means a sword was not only a weapon you owned, it was a skill your body had to learn. Distance mattered. Timing mattered. Your wrist mattered. Your nerves mattered. A spear could keep danger farther away, but a sword demanded that you step into the most dangerous space of all, the space between you and another person. Researchers studying ancient metallurgy discovered that iron did not instantly make bronze swords useless. At first, people thought iron was automatically stronger, cheaper, and better. Then they realized early iron could vary hugely in quality, and making reliable steel required control over carbon and heat treatment. Bronze swords remained important in many regions for centuries. Iron technology spread gradually, with local traditions, trade networks, skills, and resources shaping which weapons people made. The beginning of the Iron Age in Anatolia and the Near East is generally placed in the late 2nd millennium BCE, but isolated earlier iron objects also exist. The real breakthrough was not just finding iron, it was learning how to transform it consistently into useful blades. A sword was never one invention. It was generations of material knowledge made visible. Imagine holding a weapon made by someone who may have spent days mining, smelting, casting, grinding, and fitting it by hand. Imagine knowing that if it bends, your life may depend on your group pulling you back. Imagine facing another person who is trained to use the same new technology. Would you see a sword as a weapon first, or as proof that your world had become more dangerous? But archaeology also reminds us that no smith made a sword alone. Mining required labor, furnaces required fuel, metal required trade or access to distant resources. A skilled craftsperson needed knowledge passed from one person to another, and a fighter needed a community worth protecting. Cooperation was humanity's greatest weapon. Honestly, I think this is what makes the story so human. The sword may represent conflict, but its creation also reveals teaching, memory, trust, and teamwork. Your brain still notices distance, motion, and objects that could harm you. Your body still remembers the ancient logic of keeping danger just beyond reach. We cannot know every detail of what happened, but the science underneath is solid. Humans did not wake up one morning and invent swords. They learned, failed, reshaped metal, and turned a knife into a new kind of power. And from fire, fear, and human hands, the sword was born.